Hello, mech fans. This is Duncan Fisher. Hold on firmly to your mana potions, fireballs, and familiars, because you are tuning in to your regularly scheduled episode of the First Circuit Podcast.
Merry MECHMAS.
We wish Bob a Merry MECHMAS. We wish Bob a Merry MECHMAS. We wish Bob a Merry MECHMAS and a happy mech year.
Good tidings
I'm not opposed to singing, but we should sing something else.
Perhaps this absolute dumpster fire should be the
Jingle
what we go
bells. Blake up. Where the Blake smells. Your large
Just
laser
like a
took an
laid
egg.
Christmas. And I'm still dreaming of White Christmas because in Germany we're never getting snow anymore.
Ah, boy.
Yeah, it's been a while. We got snow.
Okay, so what are we gonna do?
Well, ignoring all the nonsense, that hopefully we not have a very Merry MECHMAS, everyone.
Okay. Well, they want to. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Merry MECHMAS. Oh god, you guys suck. Oh, you guys.
There's going to be delay, which is the hard part.
Oh, hi. There's gonna be delay on Bob's side.
Why?
Yeah. Between all of us, when I speak, you're hearing it half a second later or whatnot.
Really?
Well, there is
because
delay.
Spider and me were listening to you talking, so we can synchronize to you. But then your recording is gonna be half a second before Discord.
Okay, let's just do one at a
response.
time then. Okay, how's that sound? That'd be a lot better.
No.
Just say, hey
That's-
guys, Merry MECHMAS. Thank you for watching the First Circle
Okay,
podcast.
fine.
I already did that.
No, do it again. Okay, go with
Right,
the
have a Merry MECHMAS, everyone.
Have a Merry Christmas and enjoy your 3 days and spend some time in peace. And we hope you can relax.
Peace, love, everybody. Merry MECHMAS, and definitely have a good time during your MECHMAS holidays. See you guys later.
Larg.
Okay, that's
That wasn't
fine.
too bad.
That was good. Okay.
We got plenty of nonsense to throw in.
Yeah,
However,
I mean, if you want to put in all the nonsense, just do it.
I'll put in nonsense.
That's fun.
I'll definitely put in nonsense. That'll be fine.
And as always, we welcome you very much to the First Circuit podcast. This is episode number 109, and boy, what a week it has been. Technically, what a 2 weeks it has been. Mechwarrior 5 is finally released, so that means we finally know something about the game, and today we're gonna talk about the game a whole lot. Like an actual whole lot. To get kind of started and to get you guys familiar with the hosts, because obviously you don't know the hosts.
109
Think
episodes.
about
They
it.
should know the host, right?
They should, but just in case. This guy on the left with the other camera, the old guy, who are you?
I'm this guy. I'm Oldbobs 10025.
And the guy without camera is called...
Biter.
Hi.
Larg.
Cool. And to get you even more familiar with the hosts, we've got a really quick lightning round of stuff to kind of give you guys an impression what we think about the game and where we stand.
Who are
on
you?
The game.
Who are you?
Oh, me. I mean, no, I need no introduction, right?
Oh,
Just in case,
yeah.
my name is
Yeah.
IanDresarie. So to kind of dive into it. For Mechwarrior 5, personally, I pre-ordered the game, and I decided to keep the pre-order of Mechwarrior 5 even for the controversy. I like the game, for the most part. I absolutely do not love the game, though, but I think it's fun. My favorite part of the game is probably gonna be the negotiation system, because that's something we haven't seen before. And my least favorite part is absolutely the salvage. Overall, I would recommend the general audience to wait for a sale or wait for the Steam release. Okay, and that's kind of my standing Mechwarrior 5. And Bob, go take it over and go next one.
Oh, I actually like MechWarrior 5. I don't love it. Probably about a 7.5 or 7.8 out of 10. I do think they have a lot of room for improvement. A ton of room for improvement. Would I recommend the game to people in mech fans? Yes. To the general audience of people that have no clue what MechWarrior is or BattleTech, probably I'll say wait for a sale. That's my general overlook on the game itself.
Do you have a favorite and least favorite part? Or is that going to be more detailed later on?
I think negotiation system is one of my favorite parts. I do like that, and like you said, the salvage and the AI for myself, it's just kind of crappy.
All right. And Spider?
All right, so yeah, I did also pre-order Mechwarrior 5, but then I skipped it with the Epic Games Store exclusivity thing. Do I like the game? I think it's okay. Do I love it? Well, no, not necessarily. I haven't really played it. Is it fun? It can be. What's my favorite part, or what do I think is the strongest part? I would say it's the gameplay or co-op, just the on the ground mech shooting things action. My least favorite part is probably all the rest. And would I recommend it? Well, if you're a diehard fan, you probably already picked it up. And if not, give it a wait. Wait for a sale. Wait for Steam. Wait to see if there's some really interesting mods.
All right. And now that you guys are familiar with who we are, we can dive into stuff. So is there any kind of subtopic, any quick note you guys really want to start with that you really have to get out of your system?
So, for the most part, I would say, we were curious how much the gameplay would change between the beta and the final release. And for the most part, I think, even though we're doing the campaign missions now, they play very similar to the beta. So all our points and criticisms of the beta very much apply to the full game. And all that we didn't know before was obviously just how the whole gameplay loop would play out.
Though I would say there's one major difference between the beta and the real missions. The difficulty is infinitely higher in the actual, especially on campaign missions.
Yeah,
Well, particularly later game, I think they ramp up the enemies' accuracy. So in the beta, they're all novice AI pilots. So even if you're running around with 100-tonners, you're against enemies who can't shoot straight. But with MechWarrior 5, if you grind it all the way up to getting heavies and assaults, you're up against elite and accurate pilots who will hit a lot more.
Yeah, and the annoying part is they don't even just focus his in a torso and kill you clean. They're actually decent at shooting off your weapon systems, which gets so expensive in the game.
Yeah, it does.
Oh.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so we kind of touched on a bunch of stuff. Do we want to just dive right into it and start with Salvage?
Sure,
All right.
I basically
it's
can't
so
find
completely
salvage.
random, but we already gave kind of an overview about the combat system, so I guess let's just kind of dive straight into the campaign system with Salvage. All right, my personal
let's
opinion.
just handle the broad topic of the management sim, and part of that will be Salvage to start with.
Right. Go ahead, Spider.
Go ahead.
All right. So obviously, with the salvage system, you first is before you even start the mission, you have to do the negotiations, and how much salvage you even have available is how many points you can allocate, which is tied to your overall reputation level and how you are your reputation with the faction. And missions have different allowances for salvage. Salvage is primarily just weapons. What I've seen, it doesn't drop ammo boxes. Does it drop heat sinks?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I think it drops heat
ammo,
sinks.
it drops heat sinks, it drops all the components you need to build a mech.
Yeah, primarily though, what I see on the screen is weapons. There's a huge selection of weapons because there's a lot of tanks and such which have weapons strapped to them, but not heat sinks necessarily, not ammo bins that are saved or salvaged at the end. So usually you have a huge long list of weapons. They're all usually taking a couple of shares, and sometimes you get a chance of getting a mech, and a mech is a lot of shares. The issue I have, I think, with the salvage system, the biggest one is obviously a lot of people had this early on, is a mech is whether it appears in salvage, it's really hard to control. It's a bit of a roll of the die. I think you're more likely to have it appear in salvage if you headshot it or whatnot, rather than destroying the center torso type deal. But if you destroy a lot of mechs, a fair number will be available, at least in the later game missions as salvage. But it is still And the thing is, with salvage with mechs, it's an all or nothing deal. Early game, you might have 6 shares of salvage, 5 shares of salvage or something like that, and the mech is 6 or 7 shares, and there's nothing you can do to get the mech. Unlike Harebrained Schemes BattleTech, there are no partial salvage of a mech. You don't get parts, and I think I much prefer Harebrained Schemes BattleTech's system, where if you're coming up against a strong opponent, you always at least have one piece of salvage you can guarantee. You always have a little bit of progress towards getting that rare mech. With Mechwarrior 5 system, you have to, before you've even done the mission, you have to select enough salvage. And then you have to roll the die to hope the mech appears. And then when it does appear, you have to have enough shares to actually invest in it. And you put it's an all or nothing kind of deal. There's never steady progress. So I've talked a bit with a few other people. It's just in BattleTech, the first time you see a King Crab or an Atlas, it's a really big deal because obviously you're going to be making progress towards making that mech. In Mechwarrior 5, you're much better off just blowing it up, waiting till the end screen, seeing if you have enough salvage and whether it even appeared there. It doesn't have the same hype to it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely
go
agree with
ahead.
you on that. And plus the other like issue too is when you actually get to a new part of space, like going from Davion to Lao, you have no negotiation points. You have maybe about 6 salvage, but you have to up your rep system with Lao, which takes a while to do. And so when you're actually dropping, you pretty much don't put anything in salvage, just get it for money. And for the longest time, you're not getting any new mechs for a damn long time before you actually get
Yeah.
some rep system like in it. And then even then, you have to do higher done missions. I like the negotiation. Sorry, I like the negotiation system. It's nice though, but there's a problem getting salvage like all the time.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. I think the negotiation system needs a slight rebalance, or at least the salvage share system needs a slight rebalance. Because most of the time when we have let's say you have a high difficulty assassination mission, which is obviously guaranteed basically an assault mech, or like a mech that's fairly heavy compared to what you currently have on assassination missions. Most of those missions I found don't even give you the option to get enough shares, even if you have the standing, even if you have the negotiation points. Often enough, it's kept at like 12 shares when you're fighting heavy mechs, or 18 shares when you're fighting assault mechs. And from the get-go, you don't even have the option to salvage that heavy or assault mech because you can't even pick enough shares. And that just gets even worse in the late game. And then when you get to the salvage screen, it's like, I mean, cool. There's what did I have recently? There's an awesome there. It's 27 shares. I have 26 shares selected. What the fuck? And then I swear, all these kind of games are bound against me. I've had the same thing in XCOM and all the other games. Whenever I select high salvage, I don't get shit in that list to select. Whenever I select no salvage and just do it for money, then I roll all of the mechs.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's just my personal garbage RNG.
Plus also too, I actually tried to find out, asking PGI and plus, generally on Twitter, all different people playing the game, how in the hell you do get salvage? Like, is it sweeping the legs? Is it, headshots? Is it, taking off the arms and the legs themselves? Like what's the best way to get salvage? And I got 20 different answers. No one really knows,
Yes.
and the only, I guess, the guaranteed ways do headshots. But I mean, those are a dime a dozen. You can't really do those because they're moving hella fast, like a locust or something. And there's no real definitive way that I could find. If people do know, let us know, because I can't find any way to, what the best way is.
The issue with headshots is if you perfectly headshot a mech, which in the late game is absolutely possible when you have Ghost PvC and fight these slower, heavy, and assault mechs. It's very much possible since the hitboxes are insane in this game. But at that point, you're salvaging a basically fresh mech, which means the number of shares it takes to salvage that mech is insanely high. On the other hand, if you fight, let's say you fight a Victor, and the Victor, when you salvage it with a headshot, is really high. If you take off just the arm, that's already 5 shares less you need to accommodate for that mech, because an AC20 on its own is worth 5 shares. So if you take off the AC20 and then roll salvage on the Victor, it's 5 shares less than if it still had that AC20, because you don't salvage the weapon with the mech. And that's not a part of the MechWarrior 5 Salvage system, which is definitely very different from all the other games before. Like all the other games had either you build a mech and it has all the equipment on there, it's just fresh, or you build a mech and it has nothing on there. And I believe BattleTech gives you both options depending on what you want.
Yeah.
Whereas in MechWarrior 5, it's a bit more realistic. You get the mech in the state it was when you killed it, which sounds cool on paper. In reality, though, it means that you absolutely always want to shoot off the expensive weapons before you kill the mech to increase your chances that you can actually pick it with what little salvage shares you have. And obviously, by shooting off the weapon systems, you decrease your chance of rolling the salvage because it's heavily damaged. And that's just kind of a frustrating balance. I think for me, I'm now in the. And my campaign is now in the late game where I have 1.5 lands of assault mechs, and I have yet to salvage a single mech that I used. So
Well-
far, every single mech I'm using, I bought off the store.
Yeah, that's the point I was gonna go get though, because I'm literally like, I don't really care about salvage that much anymore. If I get it, cool. Now I just buy stuff off the store. I just farm C bills from lower tier and like lower rep missions, farm those for 10 games and go shopping. Like go in center space real quick and go shopping for some assault mechs. That's what I do. That's what everyone's doing now, and I think that's a bad thing for the game, because why even do salvage like that much anymore when you're going to be hit so hard in trying to get these mechs you want to get when you just go to store and go pick them up for next to nothing.
Yes, okay. So basically, I'm saying the value of a single Siebel in MechWarrior 5 is, in my opinion, more balanced. What you get for your Siebels, which you earn really hard over multiple missions. But it also means that you can pick up assault mechs for 5 million, 5.5 million Siebels.
Yeah.
I just picked up a awesome 8Q. No, the Battlemaster, it was it. I picked up a Battlemaster. It lost its PPC, but otherwise it was completely fresh. And all the components were still there. No internal damage except for that one arm. It's great condition. Took me like 20 days to repair. And I picked that one up for 5.5 million Siebels, which is insanely cheap. If you go into the Battletech and buy Hairpoint Schemes, an assault mech is gonna run you 15 to 20 million Siebels, depending on what it has. So stores are more usable to get mechs, but it also means that stores are too usable to get mechs because the salvage is not balanced against the stores.
Yeah.
Which leads us back to salvage. It's really difficult to salvage mechs. I would even say it's close to impossible to salvage mechs that you want. So we're kind of stuck with the store system because it's just so much cheaper. And yeah, that's kind of my issue with salvage. I think salvage should be either they should increase the number of salvage shares, or they should take another look at what certain stuff is worth in terms of shares. So you have an easier time picking up mechs that you actually I'm going to use and not just sell for next to nothing.
So I think there's a few things. First is obviously it's as we've described, getting mech through salvage is doable but very inconsistent, and in the end, it's better off just getting C bills. The other component is obviously getting equipment from salvage. And I think again, I prefer Harebrained Schemes system where you got a certain number of random bits and pieces, so you always had a stockpile of all the cheapest little bits and odds and ends. With this system, you're incentivized, of course, to take the most expensive things. So you're going to be taking a lot of AC-10s and AC-20s, all the big DACA or LRM weapons, or whatever is worth the most C-bills per share. Which means a lot of times, people are struggling actually to find enough ammo bins, heat sinks, sometimes medium lasers, because they're trying to prioritize things that are worth money, which means in the end, again, you're turning a lot of things into money so that you can rely on the markets. You're leaning on the markets to get you what you need rather than finding it on the battlefield.
Yep. And then you kind of get to the point where markets are somewhat unreliable for this small stuff. For example, I had a situation, I was using a Grasshopper, which has an obscene amount of heatsinks. It's close to 20 heatsinks. And that Grasshopper just kept dying and dying and dying and dying.
Yeah.
And at some point, I didn't have any heatsinks. I bought all the heatsinks off the store. I didn't have enough to refit it. I went to the industrial hub. I went to all the systems of the industrial hub, bought all the heatsinks that was there. that were there, and I still didn't have enough heat sinks to re-equip that grasshopper. And it's kind of a similar story to something in the early game I've had. At some point, I realized I wanted an SRM 2, I think, on the Panther. It was an AI mech, just an SRM 2 to fit on there. And I didn't have an SRM 2 after so many hours of play. And I was just so confused because looking back at Battletech, SRM 2s are the things I sell by the hundreds. And then I go to Mechwarrior 5 and I don't have one. That's just insane.
The way it's balanced and plays out is of course incredibly different. On the matter of the value of C-bills, I think the economy is all built around just buying mechs, buying equipment from the stores, and paying a little bit here and there to move from place to place and to keep pay your salaries. In BattleTech, Haven Scheme BattleTech, obviously a big C-bill sink is the Argo, slowly but constantly upgrading the Argo. If you want to get more places, more like upgrading your where you can have the mechs, it costs millions, a lot of those upgrades to actually get them, and they add to your operating costs. Whereas in this, it's all much more built around the marketplace, I would say, rather than picking up things from the battlefield. Personally, I mean, in some ways, it does make sense to buy a lot of, like lore-wise, it makes sense to buy a lot more things from the market for that, rather than just the scraps that you're pulling off the battlefield. But I really prefer on myself the salvage being the meaningful consequence of gameplay, where in Harebrained Schemes BattleTech, the vast majority of your rare weapons and mechs are coming from salvage, and you save up your money to upgrade the Argo and for the occasional purchase in the market. And for me, that is built around the core gameplay of what you do in the actual fights on the ground heavily impacts the kind of equipment you have to work with.
Yeah.
In this, it's somewhat, as long as you're doing missions, you're getting paid, and as long as you're getting paid, you can upgrade your arsenal over time.
I think the reliance though, like on having the market instead of actually salvage, is kind of like a bad point. I don't care about salvage now. I don't give a crap because like we're talking about, I'm not gonna get it whatsoever. And that's okay. Here's another point though. So the market itself prevents you actually caring about salvage. Also, another point is literally the salvage I get are light to medium mechs. I don't give a crap about those because now I'm doing higher level missions. This has the same power creep that BattleTech has, of where every pirate band has 100 assault mechs just waiting to attack you. Basically that type of thing. Which in reality, there's only maybe about 50 or 60 assault mechs in all the periphery, and then even then they're all broken down. And then same thing with this one is I don't care about my light mechs are just there to go soak up damage if I have 20 extra tons to go bring a Locust in there just to soak up the damage, and hopefully he gets hit with a crappy pilot like in it, and instead of my mechs. I don't care about that. And so that's the power creep that I think that all games have. Granted, I mean, they got to have this type of thing, but I wanted to actually have something where you actually want to have a medium mech, you want to have a medium lance. Now it's just a fill-in space for stuff to sell.
This kind of goes on to something else with the tonnage limit. I think Mechwarrior 5 is trying to keep light and medium mechs somewhat useful in late game by enforcing you with that tonnage limit. But realistically, it's, at least I found it's always better to just take 3 heavier mechs rather than 4 lighter mechs for multiple reasons. A, they don't die as fast, so they're cheap in the long run. If they do have to die, it's a single mech you have to fix up. That's only one slot in your mech bay that's not that's currently has an unused mech. And yeah, basically this whole thing, because late game you don't want to spend 4 slots in your mech bay. Since you only have 12, you don't want to spend 4 of those keeping your light mechs going to like fill up tonnage and soak up damage. You want to really maximize that with assault mechs, so you can do these multiple contract missions as efficiently as possible. And that again kind of defeats the purpose. Like, sure, I could use that tonnage limit to enforce myself to use like the thing that's probably appropriate for that mission, but it's way more efficient to just use less mechs and take my assaults, so I don't have to ready some light mechs for it.
That's a good point, though. But still brings up the point about power creep, though, because I mean, literally, though, the light mechs to me mechs are just selling fodder, and that's all they are.
Yeah.
just to get money, and that's a problem that most of these games actually have nowadays. BattleTech suffers from that, and then also this game suffers from that. And
I think
go
I
ahead.
think the power creep is something that's kind of inherent to the Mechwarrior series. It's kind of annoying, but that's what it is.
Mm.
The only
Yeah.
way to really counteract that would be to have like infinite mechs ready. So that way you don't care about having that light mech readied up, and then you're more incentivized to use it on that occasionally low tonnage
Yeah.
limit mission.
Well, yeah, to go with the stock mechs and such. The thing is also they often invest a lot into tonnage for lights and mediums into their engines so that they have a decent speed, which makes sense in the lore. You want your scouts to go at a decent pace. You want them to outpace the bigger guys. But when you get to the heavier mechs, as long as you have enough firepower, it doesn't matter that you're crawling across the battlefield at like 50 kph, because in the end you're just shooting down things as they appear on the horizon. And going super fast and rampaging into the enemy, like if you find a charger, that's not a great good upgrade compared to another 80 tonner.
Mm.
I would use it.
It would be fun. It's a great meme mech, but the thing is, obviously, you're putting a huge amount into engine. And relatively speaking, at least when you're in the smaller mechs, there's a lot put into engines and a lot put into speed. But if you run quickly towards the enemy, it just means their SRMs, their small laser turrets, their medium lasers will do way more damage to you than if you're staying further back and PPCing them from afar. So it's just much better to go at a snail's pace, blasting away anybody that you can see in the horizon, because on average, as long as you take long range weaponry, you'll have an edge on the enemy who take a wide variety of weaponry.
Yeah.
And since you were touching on the engine size thing, another kind of thing regarding salvage, mechs with big engine sizes are incredibly hard to salvage compared to other mechs. My prime example is the Cicada and the Hunchback. The Hunchback, you take off the AC-20, and that mech has basically no value. You can get it for 5-6 shares depending on whether it still has that medium or not. The Cicada, on the other hand, if you perfectly disarm the Cicada, strip it of all its armor, strip it of all its structure, make sure it's only a head left. At that point, that Cicada is still going to be worth 13 shares, which is 2 Hunchbacks basically. Simply because the engine is so very big.
And we did test this last night, actually, too. Like Ian was in my co-op game, and we did test this, and it was right. And you had a Cicada and a Hunchback for salvage, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, because engines are very expensive in BattleTech. They're one of the most expensive
yeah.
parts of the mech, so it does make sense. It's somewhat more valuable in salvage, but obviously in the end, it's actually less valuable a mech because it has less pod space. It's like, oh joy, a Cicada! I have enough enough tonnage for max armor and a small laser.
Well, the problem is though that we know this because we're freakazoids of BattleTech. We know all this kind of stuff. We know the Hunchback would be crappy compared to the Cicada for like selling wise. We know this kind of stuff. Now the average player who comes in the game that doesn't know anything about BattleTech but loves stompy robots, they're not going to know this kind of stuff. And this is like one of the things that
Yep.
I think is a detriment of the game itself, is they don't provide enough information about everything, about the lore of the game, the mechs themselves. Why is that Cicada so much more than the Hunchback? Well, I don't know, and so I'm not gonna worry about it. They're gonna be pissed off and then go play something else, type thing. And go ahead.
And it's one of those things that could be fixed really easily, like this particular case with the Cicada or later on the Charger. If you just made engines replaceable. Not even change out the size, just force people to salvage engines and replace damaged engines rather than just click the repair all button and there's magically going to be an engine appearing out of Fahad's butt.
Are you talking about replacing the whole engine or replacing to another type of engine?
Replacing the engine without changing the size of the engine.
Yeah.
So yeah, like even if we ignore all of the nonsense that's going on with the customization system, even if we say that
Nonsense.
system is fixed, and even if we assume for a second, yes, that system makes sense, still within that system, you could just say something like engines are components. The engine slot has a specific size, and you can only put that specific size in. It's not even new technology PGI would have to build. All they had to do is put in the engine as a component that can get destroyed and that you have to buy on the market, salvage off the battlefield, and replace. And that would help a lot with salvage, because now you have engines in a salvage list. That's something you care about. That's something you want to pick up. That's something you have to pick up in order to repair mechs. Mechs like the Cicada or Charger are no longer completely unsalvageable, because once the engine is destroyed, that mech's kind of worthless. So you can pick it up for really cheap and either fix it up or sell scraps, stuff like that.
Ian,
That's just an idea throwing out there.
You're gonna hate me. You're gonna hate me big time, because I just made a video all about the mech bay and the salvage, not salvage, but the customization system of Mechwarrior 5, according to lore.
Okay.
We already heavily disagreed on that.
Yeah, so. I know.
I think my solution would just be simply that even if you don't want players to fiddle around with engines, like Ian's suggestion, it's just you don't hide those details. If you just have the engine visible on the detail screen, and always start with the detail screen, there's no point for the minimalist for you. That way you can hover your mouse over the engine at the center, and it says it's a, you can see it's a 300 engine, and it weighs this many tons and it weighs this many C-bills. Even though they won't be able to figure out what all that means, you can piece together the things. Whereas as it is right now, it is completely hidden from the player. All they can tell is just the mech's max speed. It has a higher max speed for some reason, and it's worth way more shares. I don't know why, but to us for us, we know there's different engine sizes, and in Mechwarrior 5, they've hidden that from the player. They haven't even there's no way you can look to see what the sizes of the engines are.
Yeah, that was kind of bizarre though that they did do that. Like I don't know why. And plus also the minimalist screen that they have, except for the detail, it's like, why even have that in there? I don't understand why they have that in there. That makes no sense whatsoever. To go have that, to actually have the detailed screen, so much better. I mean, I always go to that. I don't really care about the other one. I always go to the detail screen, but I got to click that little button, details. I just wish I had an automatic type thing. But
the only situation when you're ever gonna use that minimalistic hide all the details screen is when you want to take screenshots, because you can see the mech and you just see the weapons. That's the only way I could see myself using that ever.
Yeah, I just always. It's the same with MWO, though. The weapons are just color coded already. They stand out from the heat sinks and other bits and bobs. It's obvious to tell what the different components are because we're using color. So there's no need for the minimalist screen. I think just design-wise, they wanted to try and dumb it down, but in the end, added a bit more later on. That's my guess.
Don't get me started on colors.
Yeah.
I mean, since we're going to use interface, just a tiny anecdote that I find so frustrating. When you're in the Mac Lab, you can switch over to Market View and see what kind of components the market has, so you can buy it. What I've done so many times is I've switched over to the Market View, bought that one large laser I was missing, and then forgotten to switch back over to the other view, and then accidentally I clicked why can't I pull this in? There's a large laser here. Let me snag it. What's going on here? And I click on it, and then I accidentally right click, and whoops! Now I bought another large laser that I don't care about. And it's even worse for me if you go over to the market. There have been so many times I accidentally sold equipment and mechs, because I go to the market, I don't really pay too much attention whether I'm on market or inventory. I just it's
they look the same. It's just the tab at the top that is the only difference.
And even though it's minimalistic, which minimalistic usually means that it's really easy to tell, the symbol black and white, I don't think that's easy to tell, but that's another story. But there have been so many times where I just accidentally sold stuff. For example, I look into the equipment tab and I'm like, oh my god, there's an ER large laser, buy. And then I realize, oh shit, I just sold my ER large laser. And that is so dumb. At least for mechs, when you sell the mech, you can rebuy the mech straight off the market for the same price you sold it for.
Yep.
So that's, by the way, is a really cool thing. I like that a lot. So you can kind of fix your mistakes. But also, the user interface should be made in a way that you don't even make those mistakes in the first place. And that is definitely not something that Mechwarrior 5 has.
All right. I just want to wrap up Salvage. I think we're all not the biggest fan of Salvage. It comes rather irrelevant later on. It's just the means to getting C-bells and sometimes occasionally mechs. What last thing would just be simply weapon rarity. Like, there's different tiers of
Yeah.
loot. What are your guys' opinions on the tiered loot system?
It's okay. I think it's more annoying than useful when I use multiple tiered weapons because I'm a freak for symmetry. And when I'm, for example, in my Warhammer and I have two PPCs, and one of which has a higher rarity stat, that PPC has a higher rate of fire, which means suddenly my PPCs get desynchronized and they don't
Yep.
shoot
Yeah.
psiu, they
Yeah.
shoot psiu, 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 like that. And that's frustrating. But beyond that, I like the idea of rarity systems. And I mean, it's there, it's all right. It's just kind of weird when you use it and don't pay attention too much.
Yeah, that's the thing. Paying attention to that kind of stuff, you really have to watch it. Just like you said, man. I had it happen so many times. Like, why is my medium lasers firing different rates, man? What the hell? And then I go, oh yeah, they're like this, or the machine guns are better at longer ranges, or than my shorter range ones. And I like the tier system. It's not bad, basically. And each tier has different weapon manufacturers, which is kind of cool. They actually did research on that, so it's nice. But it's okay. I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm a fan of it. I kind of know how to put that.
My gut feeling is it exists. You might as well take the higher tiered stuff, at least on your own mech, then you
Yeah.
try and make sure your mech stays alive. But I've seen in terms of gameplay, as Ian sort of mentioned, losing a grasshopper over and over and over again. You will lose components every single mission. There's a lot of damage happening in this game. So if you find that really rare component, you're often really going to lose it. So you don't have really much attachment to your rarer loot. It's just your mech will have and like the difference between the loot, every single step is a slight improvement. It's almost like in Mechwarrior Online, slight improvement. And it's like, yes, it's instead of 2.2 heat, it's 2.1 heat. It is better by a teeny little bit, but am I really going to care about it?
Yeah.
No. And yeah, I was going to
for
say
that,
just the loot is tied to the difficulty. So your early game, you're not really ever going to find a max level medium laser. You're always just finding regular medium lasers or one pip medium lasers. At least that's what I've seen. So you're not finding super crazy loot. You'll only really find that crazy stuff when things have already ramped up. And at that point, it's just, the power creep. It's just power creep rather than something special.
And I think for the tiny amount of improvement you get per rarity level, the price increase is not proportional, in my opinion, because it's really difficult. If like going back to my Atlas, for example, I've got the Atlas RS with two large lasers in the arm. It is incredibly difficult for me to always keep two large lasers of the same rarity level in that mech, because arms fall off really easy in Mechwarrior 5. So I always have to pay attention that I have two large lasers of the same rarity level, because otherwise I'm gonna go insane. And it's not like I can just go to the store and buy that level 2 or level 3 large laser, because they are so incredibly expensive. So I'm absolutely reaching the point where even for my own mechs, I'm just putting in the cheaper components, because those I can actually reliably get replaced rather than expensive ones.
Yeah.
For me, it's more the one pip ones. I have about 200 medium one pip lasers, and I just pop them in like anything I can. Now, for like the only things I really worry about are I covet a large pulse laser like it's a holy grail, and basically and I think Ian was playing my mech. I'm like, dude, don't lose my large pulse laser.
I decided to not play the mech because I know Bob wouldn't have talked to me for a year.
Exactly. But like I covet certain weapons because I can't find them. Like even if it's just a 0 pip weapon, it's still a large pulse laser that it's better than the other type of things. And that's but like I keep like a ton of one pip. I sell most of my 2s and 3s just to get some money because I lose them all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a tiny bit of abuse you can do there. Say you have the Jagger mech. Jagger mech every single mission is going to lose its arm.
Yeah.
That's guarantee. That mech just doesn't come home with arms, period. So what you can do if you want to turn your high quality AC5s and AC2s, which you don't really care about because they're marginally better, you don't really need them, put them in the Jagger mech, increase your damage coverage, and send the Jagger mech just for 40 seconds, let him tank stuff so his arms fall off. Because at that point, via the damage coverage, you're getting the full value rather than just the selling price of the weapon. Just making money, cheesing the system.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always kind of interesting to play games, and when the damage taken, you come home and like, well, I did fairly well. I think one of my mechs lost its arms. Personally, I lost, I don't know, medium laser stuff. And then you go to the end screen like, wait a second, I took 2 million Siebels worth of damage, even though most of my armor is fine. And then you look like, oh crap, that guy that lost the arm had the tier 2 PBCs, and that's why it's 2 million Siebels.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. In the end, I think it doesn't really add much to the game. It in fact adds a lot of nuisances to the game. And in the end, you just sort of have to just roll with the game systems, and it doesn't really feel like you have much control over it. So I just don't like, particularly with the extremely dumbed down mech lab, or at least the restrictive mech lab, to use a more, with the mech lab being so restrictive, the main thing you're doing is changing out weapons with exactly the same ones that are higher or lower pips. And I just don't care about that. I don't think most people really care about that. It's not a huge significant thing. For the most part, the biggest changes you could do to your mech are changing your AC20 single shot to AC20 burst fire. And that's nice, but I'm really not a fan, as we talked before, about the Mech Lab and Mechwarrior 5, and the rarity system and the how much you lose weapons all the time do not add to that system, because it makes it even more redundant and restrictive.
Yeah, and speaking of redundant, do we want to go a tiny bit into customization this episode, or do we just want to leave that worm of cans closed for now?
So what do you mean customization? You can paint your mechs.
Yeah.
I don't think you can paint your dropship, can you?
It does have a limited mech lab, and I do admit that, though. But I'm not trying to defend PGI like on this, but it does actually do it according to lore. Okay, and yes, it does. Yes, it does. It does do it according to lore. Basically, you have to. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think even if, let's say we're going according to law and I'm making a game system, I like the idea of the burst fire Daka weapons. If you prefer burst fire weapons, you have a choice.
Yeah.
With medium lasers, there's just different
Medium
pip
laser.
levels. I would wish there was something like a longer burn medium lasers, shorter burn medium lasers.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
With something according to the heat generated or the range that these weapons have. So a short burn medium laser would, but it has a much shorter burn, but it's shorter range. So it's kind of a brawly medium laser, whereas the long burn medium laser is a little cooler perhaps, and it has a little bit longer range, but you have more face time. Just options like that are, to me, a lot more interesting than just the pip system, because now you're actually changing how your mech feels to play and shoot.
Actually, that would be kind of cool, actually, to tell you the truth. That would be really nice. But the customization, though, according to lore, you would have to customize, do R&D testing, battlefield like ready. You just don't bring out a mech. Let's say you bring out a Hunchback with the AC-20, right? You want to say, okay, I want to change it out to an AC-10, get on the battlefield. Now, the problem is, though, like the mechs and the variants are actually built according to years of testing, years of battlefield testing, years of gyroscope like calibration, years of like making sure the engine can actually support this, years of excuse me, years of doing this, years of the targeting system being calibrated for the AC-20, the magazine feed for it, everything's coordinated for that type of mech. Now, you change out the AC-20 to an AC-10, you have to calibrate the housing, you got to calibrate the concussion from the round from 20 to a 10. Gyroscope has to be calibrated as well. The R&D testing, is it going to be better on the battlefield? You got parts kits that you're talking about that you're trying to get on the battlefield. Part kits are made for the Hunchback with the AC-20. You have to calibrate the magazine feed system. So you're on the battlefield, you get hit with your Gauss rifle, or someone with a Gauss rifle hits your AC-20 or AC-10, your custom mech, destroys the AC-10, you go back to your text to like, well, we don't have any AC-10s, we got AC-20s. but we don't have any AC10s so we're gonna have to go customize your mech now back to the AC20, which means calibrating the gyroscope, making a different type of housing system for it to calibrate to have it for the AC20, taking out the AC10, the magazine system. System will have to be redone because AC20 round is this big compared to AC10 round like this big. So it's a little bit different, like when you go in customization. Now, I understand why the lore is like that. I don't know why PGI did it this way, because everyone loves customization. I love customization too. I love doing the boom chicken. I love doing all that kind of stuff in BattleTech and MechWarrior Online. Beautiful. I love that kind of stuff. But I understand why that system is like that.
Yeah, the main criticism we had before what we started with was, of course, just salvage and
Well,
what
yeah.
kind of stuff you can find on the battlefield. And the current system is your mechs get damaged, destroyed all the time. Your options of changing weapons is very limited. And so in the end, it just comes to the consequence that we lean on the market just to buy bigger mechs rather than the salvage system to find cool weapon systems or new bigger mechs. And in the end, that is the huge issue of the game, that you aren't really that invested into, and you don't even know how to really guarantee what you're going to possibly get from salvage. In the end, all that matters is you complete the mission and get paid and pull some random bits off from the battlefield, and that's it. And I think the big part of these games, particularly the mech sim, it's all you're spending your C-bills on is bigger mechs. I want to spend my C-bills on cool, different alternative weapon systems, on making the mechs tankier, tougher, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I just the way they've currently balanced it, as we just mentioned, just the salvage system is not that interesting, and I think the weapon system as well is not that interesting. And it's all just it's of course all intertwined. And I think there are ways you can, like I said, you have more burst fire options, stream missile launchers, short or long burn, medium lasers, more options in the game, options like to strap on tons of extra armor onto your mech, so that you don't always have that a few little bits of tonnage floating over. Because sometimes you downgrade that AC 10 into an AC 5, and you put some ammo, some heat sinks, and max the armor, and now you've got like 5.43 tons remaining. And those 0.343 tons you cannot spend on anything. All you can do is strip it and then put another heat sink needlessly into the mech, which when the mech gets destroyed, which it very likely will be,
get some heat
it's just
sinks.
more expenditure. You can't min max, and in the end, obviously, the best thing is just not to put the heatsink in there in the first place. Just go in under tonnage.
Well, like I think they tried to do both a little bit of customization and then also keep it limited as well. And it's probably not a good mix of what PGI did. They should have just did like, we have variants and that's it. You use this and go from there. A lot of people wouldn't like that. Or go full customization, and that's what they should have done instead of doing kind of like a mixture of the two.
Yeah.
I would like to go just a tiny bit back on the law arguments. I'm not gonna go in depth because that's gonna probably would be a discussion between me and Bob for a couple hundred hours before we finally reach a consensus. I'm just gonna say I completely disagree with Bob's logic.
No problem.
No problem. On going a slightly different road, what we're playing in MechWarrior 5 is not a line soldier. I see Bob's argument making some sense for a line soldier because it's really difficult when you have these fixed structures, there's a supply line and all that kind of stuff. But what you're playing MechWarrior 5 is sort of the standalone hero kind of line. And in BattleTech, heroes being able to modify their mechs has always been a thing. Yes, it's crazy expensive. Yes, it's going to take them a bunch of time, but it's always been a thing. So personally, I don't see the argument lore-wise that it makes a bunch of sense, because in MechWarrior 5, again, you're playing that kind of hero. You're playing that kind of mercenary who has the time and income to customization.
From my
there's a difference. There's a difference between actually tabletop and lore compared to actually like MechWarrior, MechWarrior Online games. It's a completely different type of a structure that they go ahead and do. Now, the Line Soldier, basically, these are mech warriors that are throughout the battlefield, and basically they're part of house units or mercenary companies and everything else. Now, when a mercenary company or a house has supply lines, they only have supply lines for a certain type of variants. That's why the game actually has multiple variants. That's why the record sheets are done in multiple types of variants. So he has these variants like out there because they're already built, they're tested, battlefield tested, and everything else. I'm not saying that there wasn't customization. There was customization throughout the lore and through the books themselves. Mercenary commanders, house lords, pirates just put together a bunch of Argo mechs, lawnmowers and leaf blowers and everything else. They did that kind of stuff, and that was out there. I mean, that was completely like out there. In the first book of Mechwarrior, the role-playing game, there was a picture of the bottom half of a rifleman and top half of a warhammer. So they do, or the bottom of a warhammer and the top of a rifleman. That does happen. Basically, that's out there. But they didn't care. The pirates didn't give a crap. They wanted something to go shoot and go forward. That's all they wanted. So it was out there. Don't get me wrong, but the logistic nightmare of actually fixing these mechs, getting them back in working order after a battle was just astronomical. So they went with the variants for different roles through the battlefield.
Yeah. Again, I'm not going to argue this point because we don't have the time for that.
Oh yeah, okay.
But
okay.
We're not talking about line soldiers. We are talking about that really special person with these unlimited resources and the godlike aim. And
well, that's different.
Never going to die.
It's a game. It's an online game.
It's a
well,
game.
this is my contention though, that we can talk about lore all day, but game design. What I was trying to get at is just simply, I think the game's design is not very cohesive at the moment. It doesn't feel like really going towards any cohesive view that is actually fun to play. As we said, the salvage system kind of gets discounted, the rarity system gets discounted, and in the end, at least, you got all this. They put a lot of time and effort into this mech lab, and it's something that you have very little actual operative choice over. I think perhaps there are ways you can totally do this. As I said, more options of the types of weapons. There's other things as well. I think the only improvements to your company is predominantly just the weight classes that the heaviest mechs you have to operate, which ones you've actually bought off the market or salvaged. The great thing I liked with Harebrained Schemes BattleTech was, of course, you upgraded the Argo. Now, I think there are changes when you go through the story, but there aren't major ones. Like, I would say when you're starting off and you're just a drop ship, you've only just got your feet off the ground, you can't change weapon systems that easily. But after doing it for a decade, and now you have heavy and assault mechs and a huge amount of money, it would be so cool if you do a story mission and immediately after they say, we've upgraded our upgrading facilities, so now you can take more weapon slots, like mechs there's lots of things in design, like we were talking about before the podcast. Mech quirks, there's absolutely no quirks whatsoever relating to the mechs. And the thing is, game balance wise, of course, unlike BattleTech, mech geometry really does matter. Old Bob plays a lot with the hunchback, and he instinctually shields his right torso because that's where the majority of the weapons are. But because it's such a big target, the enemy hit it all the time, and he keeps having a huge battery of medium lasers and heat sinks and whatnot getting blown off his mech, even though he's had years of experience drilled into him about shielding with his mech. And he is still losing that side torso, and they can't even blame him like usual. That's the worst thing. And game design wise, I think it would be so cool. Just simple things that the hunchback has an extra 5 armor on its big hunch because it takes more hits, and when your company gets more and more advanced, that hunchback's quirk goes from 5 extra armor to 10 to 15, because your company, if you, at least with lore reasons, you can say your company is learning the strengths and weaknesses of mechs and reinforcing what makes them good. And that way, at least, it makes sense to bring that hunchback into later missions rather than bringing it in as fodder. Because we also mentioned the Jaeger mech, its arms get blown off all the time. Geometry has an impact, but what they've done is they've removed all the quirks to the game. They've removed all your options to change the mechs for the entirety of your playthrough. There's nothing to look forward to other than bigger mechs, and those bigger mechs you very inconsistently get from Salvage. So you either have to game the weird system that they put together with Salvage, or just save up C-bills by just playing the game and buying it on the marketplace. And that is all that they have given you. That's the only options you have. Everyone playing this game for the first 10 hours, 5-10 hours or so, are in the Centurion. It looks the exact same damn game. There is so little self-expression.
Yeah, and I believe Bob last episode had the argument that maybe the system makes sense to make variants stand out, make variants unique. And I believe, Bob, you've kind of come around on that point because we've come to learn in the campaign that this system does not make variants unique and special. In fact, it enforces the fact that certain variants are utter trash that you're never going to ever use.
Like the Griffin. Like the Griffin.
The catapult's a big example.
Yeah, I mean, the Griffin is that's mech design, which is not quite ideal, but the catapult is always my prime example.
Yeah.
The catapult C1 has these 2 large missile slots and 4 medium laser slots. And that's the variant you're going to want. All the other catapult variants with missiles are completely out the window because they're objectively worse. The catapult C1 has 2 small laser slots. So, just take a C1 and put in 4 small lasers. It's better. The catapult A1 doesn't even have any energy slots. So that one's just the arms. So that basically means out of these 3 variants, you only want the C1. The C4 and the A1 are just completely utter trash. You're going to sell them if you randomly get them, and you're never going to buy them in store. And it gets even worse than just variants. It gets to whole mechs. The Jaggermech, in my opinion, Mechwarrior 5, is utter garbage that you never should use because those arms are going to get blown off every single mission. Whereas the Riflemen, where usually Riflemen, Jaggermech are kind of on par. Like, there's arguments for the one, there's arguments for the other. Mostly, I think the Rifleman looks a bit prettier. The Jaggermech is more lore Deviant-wise. But the Mechwarrior 5, I found myself not using any Jaggermechs whatsoever because those arms, whereas on the Rifleman, I had the large energy slots in the side torso, which means the Rifleman was a lot safer for me to put AR pilots in because it's less expensive in the long run.
Yeah.
And so it's not just that certain variants are completely obsolete, like the Catapult A1 and C4. It's that complete mechs are obsolete once you have the other options, like the Jaggermech and the Rifleman.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of like from a game design standpoint, I don't see any reason why this customization system exists, and I think that's just kind of
well,
me
it's
up.
Just like I said, tabletop to game wise, they got to make some sacrifices on different things they do, and they should have went the customization route. At least I think they definitely should.
I think you could totally sort of have. It would be interesting if you had. Resources are very limited to the player, and you have to make do with crappy variants or crappy weapon systems and such. But in this, they hand you money hand over foot. You get weapon systems and bits and pieces all over the place. And the thing as well is, you can't, or at least you really shouldn't be going in with damaged mechs or subpar mechs because the mission difficulty itself is really difficult. So you want to go in there with the best mech possible, rather than one of these, mechs with damaged armor with subpar weapon systems and options. Like, what was your contention with the Griffin? I imagine it's just super
just a
hot.
PPC and Lerm 10.
No, it's the white torso. You blow off the white torso, and the Griffin is disarmed.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. Yeah. So I think perhaps we just get into the whole gameplay loop of the game. As I sort of touched on, at least I think all it is you play missions and you'll earn C-bills as long as you take enough damage coverage, and over time you'll just slowly build. It's a snowball building up momentum, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and your mechs just get bigger and bigger and bigger with time. And the only real progression you have is somewhat the rarity of the weapons you find and the size of the mechs that you have. And that's about it. That's all you're really working towards. What I really loved with the Argo and Headbrain's Battletech is obviously, when you repair the outside, it looks a lot more pristine than when it started. There's there's events going on where the upgrades you have within the Argo will have an impact, a possible impact on how your mech company turns out. In this game, it's all just fiddle with screens, deal with your money, and then jump down into the combat. And in combat wise as well, all you want to do is complete the objective, get home, get paid. It's all the same loop. Do the job, get home, get paid, fiddle around with your finances, find a job, do the job, get home, get paid. You just do that over and over and over again in an eternal loop forever, and you just get bigger and bigger mechs. The enemies get more and more accurate. Things get tougher and tougher and tougher. And again, you just all the time just get Go out, get paid, go home, manage your finances.
So
That's it.
what
That's
you're saying
all
is
the game
MechWarrior
does.
5 is just a mirror of life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I do agree with you on that, though. There's really no tactics-wise. With BattleTech, there's a little bit more tactics as far as doing what you're doing, sending your mech certain different positions, that kind of stuff. With this, run in, say like a raid, say like a demo like mission, run in, kill all the buildings, run back out, and that's all you gotta do. Ignore everything else, like if you can.
I mean, there are some missions where you can and should deploy tactics. For example, I had a mission that was really interesting map. Basically, it was valley in the middle, and I had to demolish multiple structures, and there were 4 bases inside that valley, and the whole valley had 1 entrance. So that's one of those, again, randomly generated. But that was a really difficult mission because I couldn't just charge, and that was one of the very few exceptions to that rule where I actually had to go around. And what I did is I set up my lens on very certain spots in a certain formation to make sure that my heaviest tanked the damage and the rest were behind them. And then I peeked over the cliff, put 1 PPC on that objective, and suddenly all hell broke loose, and all the mechs suddenly got triggered, and everyone rushed out that front door, and the 4 of us just stood there and shooting gallery. Prime example of shooting gallery. Hundreds of tanks coming out of that tiny spot, trying to rush past you, and all you're doing is stand still and kill tank, kill tank, kill tank, kill tank, until eventually they are the 3 heavy mechs, which we just disposed of at that point.
Okay, that's a rarity though that you told me. Generally though, like it will be nice if, like, say the turrets at your base that you're trying to defend tell you what's on the opposite side of the wall,
Yes.
so you could actually shoot it. It'll be nice if basically the AI is a little bit better. It'll be nice if certain things, but there's really no tactics. There's no grid system on the map. On the hit B on the big map. Like, I'll tell Ian, go to that little mountain that looks like a little flower on the top right in grid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. Basically, it makes no sense. It needs, like, go to grid 6, 4. Like that kind of thing, or something like that. It needs something.
And then it's not even a clear grid because there are these half grids, and I'm like,
yeah.
Are you starting to count the half grid, or are you starting on a proper map?
Yeah. And see, there's no real tactics in the game, and most of the time, I'm running with 4 assault mechs or 4 mechs themselves, blowing everything out of, basically just walking slowly, blowing things away, and until I get the objective, and then walking back to my dropship. There's no, and then obviously things appear behind you. Your radar sucks. I don't even go by radar like anymore. I just look around in a circle to see if I see anything.
Yeah.
No one my lance mates don't tell me what's going on. The AI that's at the base isn't saying, hey, by the way, there's a mech right behind you. They don't say this kind of stuff, and so it's like there's no tactics involved. And like what Biter was saying, yeah, it's just like life. I wake up, take a shower, eat, go to work, drive home, play games, wake up. That's basically what you do in this game.
This also comes back to one of the first things that Biter ever said about the game, the soundscape, the locational awareness that's just not there in this game. Like, you can fight this massive amount of enemies in front of you, and at one point suddenly you're like component lost, and you look down and, oh my god, I've been taking that much damage from behind, and you turn around and there's 20 tanks behind you.
Yeah.
And you never would have noticed unless you lost that component. Because if you get shot from behind, you have the visual effect, and what I've noticed is the visual effect from getting hit there appears on the top of your cockpit from the front. So you can't really locate even was that damage from the front or was it from behind. And it's really frustrating, especially since the sound doesn't help you at all. You just, someone's shooting. And you see this explosion, and explosion from the front. So there's probably something like this. There might be a chopper above me somewhere in front of me, and there's nothing. And then after minutes of looking, you turn around and, it was right behind me the whole time.
Yeah. Just so we don't nitpick for too long, the biggest strength of the game, I think people like, is the first-person combat, blasting enemies to pieces. It's just like MWO. That core gameplay loop of just running and gunning with mechs is great. The thing is, as we mentioned, it is a watered-down form of MWO. Enemies don't have letters above their heads, so you can't give them call signs. They don't. There's not letters on the grid. The sounds for being hit by different types of attackers is exactly the same, and it does not indicate direction. The spotting system is similar to MWO. You only see the guys in front of you in your visual arc. But the thing was, that was always in the context of 12 versus 12.
Mhm.
And even then, you have options for 360-degree target retention. You have options to pop a UAV and target spotted, etc., etc. Whereas in this, in MWO, enemies won't spawn behind you typically, unless you're in the enemy's base in invasion.
God,
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but I think MechWarrior Line has more tactics than actually MechWarrior 5.
Yes.
I hate to say
Because
that, but it does.
it's a watered down form of MWO, and they haven't changed the systems to be better suited for a more single player or a lance environment. To draw from my only inspiration for these kind of games would be Thunder Brigade, in that they have sensors, and you can have your active sensors or passive sensors. And with active sensors, it shows all the enemies in a minimap, with a longer range in the front arc. People, your rear arc, when they're further away, you don't see what directions they are. You don't see whether they're buildings or vehicles or whatever. And the thing is, with active sensors, enemies will notice you more, whereas with passive sensors, you turn it off so that you only have that front arc, like you have in MechWarrior
Yeah.
5, but enemies near you, behind you, will still be noticed. Your mech is able to detect, the spider directly behind you.
Yeah, what
MechWarrior
you're
5
talking about
doesn't
right there
have
is
that.
exactly the radar system used in MechWarrior 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Mhm.
100% that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need that system, because in MWO, with 12 people spotting, it's really hard for an enemy flanking behind you, and they have to actually physically run around you to flank you. In MechWarrior 5, because they can spawn behind you, and there's just so many enemies, and you have no real ways of tracking them, you need that extra sensors to really give you intel to make more tactical decisions. Because right now, it's sort of what's the game called? Time Crisis. Have you ever played that game?
No.
It's the okay. If you remember, like the old arcades, and there'll be you pick up like a gun and you're like shooting zombies.
Okay.
In Time Crisis, it's the zombies that slowly come towards you, blam them down. You have to blam them down quickly, switching from like 3 zombies coming towards you, blam blam blam, 1 down, blam blam blam, 2 down, blam blam blam, 3 down. If you're too slow at bashing the trigger and switching between the zombies, they will give you they will nom you and take 1 point of health. And this game sort of feels like that, where enemies just keep popping up and you have to keep knocking them down. But it's even worse than that. It's an unsatisfying version of Time Crisis. The zombie pops up, noms you instantly almost before you have time to react and destroy them. And then you destroy them. And not only that, zombies are spawning behind you and you're not given an indicator. You have to press a foot pedal to turn around periodically to find if a zombie has spawned behind you and is knobbing your rear off. Yeah, the game is an unsatisfying version of Time Crisis, and they need to improve the sensors. I think changing like how the enemy shoot at you. They always sort of poke up and immediately shoot at you. You know, fairly accurately. Like I was watching TTB's playthrough,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy is a competent shot. And enemies will pop up, and he take the mechs, because we're using MWO system. Mechs take a bit to swivel your torso over, figure out the trajectory of your AC-10, and press the trigger. But they come around the corner, and within a second, they've hit him with a PPC. His vision is blurred, and he blasts them away. But even a good shot like him is unable to instantly return, destroy them before they have a chance to hurt him. And there was also, funnily enough, early on in the campaign, he a spider got stuck on geometry, so he headshotted it. And of course, you get the classic, he's only allowed 5 points of salvage kind of thing, and the spider is worth 6.
Yeah.
So even if in early missions he is conking out the enemy with very accurate headshots, so to speak, and he knows what to do, he is not getting rewarded by the game. The game does not actively try to reward the player. And key differences again with harebrained schemes and whatnot. There's bonus pay for doing things in missions. Like tactically
Yes.
speaking, even if all you can do is charge into the enemy and blow stuff up, there should be incentive to how much stuff you blow up or where you go. But as it is, all you need to do is complete the job and then go home. The only exception to that is what was it, Warzone, the one where you can stay afterwards and you'll get paid for everything each unit that you destroy. That's the only time there's any tactical decision making in regards to MechWarrior 5.
Yeah, defense has some kind of side quests where the more you save, the more you get steeple-wise, but also that's really inconsistent, only pops up on certain mission. But I think this kind of side quest kind of thing, secondary objectives, that's something that's going to be featured in the next episode, since that was something Russ talked about.
Yeah, Russ talked about, yeah.
Dev update. Also, I think AI is probably a topic we should save for a future episode, because we can
go a whole episode on that one.
Dive into them. I'm just gonna quick warning: if you guys play with AI likes to get stuck. AI likes to charge forward. Be careful when you're walking on cliffs, because often enough your lancemates are just gonna jump down the cliff and then they can't get out again. And also be careful. There are certain missions where you have to kill all opponents. I'm talking about campaign missions here, and the enemy AI can get stuck. So if you have a mission where you have to kill certain number of mechs and you just can't find that last one, go ahead and look around behind all the rocks. They're probably gonna be stuck somewhere. I just had an example where, well, I had two examples actually. I had one city map where I had to break down literally the whole city, only to find out that there was one scorpion tank who managed to spawn, I don't know, inside the building, because he was inside the building when I took down the building. And then I had another campaign mission where I could not find the AI, and I just kind of gave up on that mission because there was one mech missing and I had to kill it to continue, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, as I just to very briefly touch on it, when we were covering the beta, I said the AI of your companions would be a huge, interesting topic. As it stood, they stood a little bit too close for you in the beta. They have loosened them up in the main game. The problem is with them being more loosened up is that it's kind of flabby. That sometimes they'll just charge on ahead. Sometimes they will stay back and not actually share armor. So sometimes you're stuck with your AI get kamikazing into the enemy, and sometimes you're stuck with them not doing anything. Whereas before, when they stuck with you, they did block your shots, but at least you had control over their location.
Yep. Yeah. Plus, like last night, I was playing with Ian for the co-op. The AI sent him to a place and stopped him, and I forgot about him. And then Assassin, he was in a Thunderbolt, and Assassin came over and killed him. I'm like, whoa. It's like, okay.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, the AI, there's another episode for the AI, so I guess we'll get into that.
Yeah. I'm just gonna. I would just like to summarize my opinion of the MechWarrior AI. I think the MechWarrior 4 AI is worlds better than the MechWarrior 5 AI. Even though it's so much older, I just can't put my finger on exactly why.
Yeah. Like I played MechWarrior 4 like crazy, and the AI was pretty was I think better as well.
I've never had an issue with AI in MechWarrior 4.
Okay.
One thing, just remembering AI, would be the skill system, leveling up your main character and your AI co-pilots. What are your guys' impressions on that?
It does help.
It's
I've noticed a little bit. Going from an AI that only has 18 to an AI that has 43, it does help a little bit. I've noticed that they do actually kill things a lot quicker, but they're still kind of dumb at the same time.
Yeah, the higher level your AI is in total, the more accurate they are. It's still a roll of dice, but the chance is higher. So yeah, it helps. I think it's just a passive thing you don't really pay attention to, because you can't really influence how they level up. They're just going to level up over time. It happens passively. You don't pay attention to it. The only time you pay attention to it is when you have to fire all of your pilots because they're garbage, and try and rehire one with higher max level.
Yeah.
In MechWarrior 5, the only things that matter is payday, is money.
Yeah, and even then, the higher level does not necessarily mean more expensive. Yeah. I've had multiple things where the higher level pilot was actually a lot cheaper than the lower level pilot.
That's kind of weird.
So, don't get attached to pilots. They don't mean anything in MechWarrior 5.
I toss them out to my airlock when I get a new one. So
toss them out.
Yeah.
Chop them up and use. Yeah, no, that's kind of.
There's not even a Decker in MechWarrior 5. That's a sad thing.
Yeah. I know.
I've had the anti-Decker happen though. I have this one Wolverine that I bought really early game for the price of 2 assault mechs. I don't know why I did that back then, but Black Dragon, one of
We
our
don't know
friends
the
in Discord.
price. Yeah, you don't know how prices will be long term.
Yeah, I didn't know. I saw a Black Dragon was like, Wolverine, I want it. So I bought it for him. And fun fact, this Wolverine has never, ever died, has never lost more than both his arms, no matter what I do. It's multiple times. I specifically took this Wolverine, sent it 300 meters in front of my lance, and let it tank 4 assault mechs. And at the end of the mission, I'm somehow completely opened up, but that Wolverine is fresh. And I don't know, just weird anecdote. That mech is God mode. I have no idea. I couldn't kill it yet.
I would
And
say
I've tried.
the Wolverine does have good hitboxes, but obviously it has a dash of luck too in your game.
Like it's actually gone to the point where when I have to decide, do I take an extra Orion or do I take the Wolverine? I'm like, okay, I'm taking the Wolverine, and the Wolverine is gonna tank every single opponent in this mission. And then he tanks every single opponent in the mission, and it comes out fresh.
Damn.
And it's so absurd.
Yeah. All right. Another token aspect of the game would be, I guess, to talk about is the story.
There's
Just
a,
what is your impression?
There's a story in this game? Wait a second. Hold on.
Yeah. I don't know.
Wait
Do
a
we
second.
perhaps want to save the story for the next episode with the AMA?
Sure.
Well, he just mentions it.
Yeah,
in
but
the
it's
AMAs, I think.
still that's a good chance to talk about it since we are kind of running long already.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it exists. I
Yeah,
think
it exists. One sentence. I think the story sucks and needs to be greatly improved.
Oh yeah. I got some ideas in that one.
Yeah, I think just to mention briefly, in the AMA, they said they put this in the last year, and I think they didn't necessarily hire anyone as a dedicated story person. This is a bit, the story feels kind of slapdash because I think it is. They spent most of their time on that constant loop of getting money, spending money, and this is just something they put in. But the pity is, of course, that they do a nice enough tutorial thing, but then there's this long cut scene and stuff, and it's just the campaign is very much in your face at the beginning, and it really does not sell the game very well to start with.
It's the same cliche thing over and over again that every Mechwarrior game has. I mean, literally, father dies, must revenge against him. Yay! Okay,
I must avenge my father.
I know. Same thing over and over again.
By the bad mercenaries. They even stopped the head of the commando for just to prove they're evil.
Plus, he has a bad voice.
Have no honor.
So yeah, okay. So we'll get that next time then.
All right. So I guess one thing that we kind of should address is the performance of the game. And performance for me, like it's something that in the last episode I said performance is pretty well for the game. It runs very fine on even low spec hardware. But since then, what I've come to really realize is, yes, the game is easy to get running on low spec hardware with low settings, but it doesn't scale well with high spec hardware. For example, I have a 2070, and even on low settings, I cannot get stable 60 FPS in game. And I don't know why, because I don't see a bottleneck. All my hardware is not even at 50% usage. So I'm assuming that's just something the game doesn't do well. Also, we've had a bunch of crashes that were hardware and driver related. Even after multiple patches to fix crashes, even after a NVIDIA driver update, I'm still getting crashes from hardware. And my favorite thing, I don't know why, but the game is unable to utilize my 2070 in-game. It maxes out at like 50-60% on highest settings. But if I'm in the Mac lab or the title menu, my graphics card is at 100% usage all the time. It doesn't go down. It just ramps up to 100%. And I don't know why, and it's driving me nuts because I'm just sitting here in the Mac lab. I'm doing nothing basically. I'm staring at a static screen, and I just hear those fans in my case slowly ramp up, and I smell the burning plastic from the GPU backplate that's getting heated to death. And I know this game is going to kill my GPU in no time if it stays like this, because keeping a GPU at 100% all the time is not sustainable. It's just that shouldn't ever happen.
It's more wear and tear because it's just that will always add up. And for menus, it should not be having that kind of wear.
No.
Yeah.
Like the hardest part with menus isn't all the graphics and all the tags you have to render and stuff. It's remembering all the menus. It's a matter of, RAM. That sounds like some really shoddy coding to me. I'm not enough of an expert, but it's a simple thing, just sort of like to make an example. It's like it's trying to it's like checking where your mouse is, kind of thing. It's like, and if you have more processing speed, check more often. And so it's
Yeah.
like, well, nothing's going on, so I'm just going to check, 10,000 times every millisecond.
I don't even know if that's what's happening. I think what's happening here is even the title menu is a 3D scene within Unity engine. Like the king crab in the background, that's an actual
Yeah.
3D scene that's rendered live in real time, rather than a video, which honestly I think performance-wise would make so much more sense, but that's beyond the point. And what's happening is the game does not have a locked frame rate for those scenes. So in the title menu and in the MATLAB, it just tries to push out as many frames as it possibly can. So
Yeah.
I'm getting, in those types of situations, I'm getting my 120, 200 FPS, but at the price of my GPU being at a flat 100% usage. What is weird to me is that this scenario does not happen in game. In game, I'm not only having way less FPS, I'm also having less usage on my GPU. So that's what's really weird to me, that PGI manages to completely use up every single point of GPU performance in a menu, but they're unable to utilize your GPU performance in game. And that's probably the weirdest thing performance-wise for me.
Yeah.
Maybe-
If ever, it would be nice for them to optimize, particularly the main menu, since if you cannot run the main menu and your computer has troubles, you can't set it to lower settings, at least not
Yes.
easily.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to go into the files and manual set it, and most people are just
Yeah.
gonna be at that point like, no, I'm just uninstall.
Yeah.
Won't bother. But yeah, lots of crashes. I believe last week I did a stream where I actually put it in chat, and I had an average of 1 crash every 30 minutes. And since then, there was one patch that fixed some of my crashes, and it was fairly stable for a couple hours. And today I've played a bit, and I had 1 crash every 20 minutes on average.
I had one crash
What-
last night playing with you,
All right.
basically, and I had total 3 crashes like all together. I don't know.
Okay, that's not too bad. Yeah, but
Yeah.
today for me it was insane. I did one mission, started the next mission, crash. Reloaded, started the mission again, got it done, next mission, crash. Like 1 every 20 minutes.
Yeah,
was
the
that's
game
not
on
good.
launch wasn't the best, is because of the crashes, and also if you're trying to get friends in, a lot of people have to often restart the game, and I think they are trying to work on both of those things.
Yeah, the front thing is fixed already. The crash thing they're working on, but sometimes on some days it runs really smooth, and then on other days, like for me today, it crashes every single mission. So
Yeah. To bring up one other positive aspect is that you actually did play the game, Ian, because you were able to use some certain hardware.
yes, they managed to put in some additional joystick support. I'm absolutely going to give them that. They are listening to feedback, they are trying to address stuff, and yes, they put in joystick support for what people use.
Good.
However, what they've not done is put in general joystick support, so you still have to hope that whatever you're using is on the list of supported devices. But hey, at least my hardware is working. I can use my joystick.
You know, I never actually used a joystick for any of the mech games. I've always wanted to, but I never did, ever. Like the only one was Steel Battalions, and that's it. And I might now, because I got a joystick, I might actually set that up and sit down and adjust it and all that kind of crap.
You should
play it and go play with it and make believe I'm inside of a mech. In fact, I'll put a cardboard box over my head too, and basically just looking this way so I can't see anything else.
Just make sure you have a alarm mech, because aiming takes a while to get used to.
Okay. I'll go check it out and see.
And since we're on positive things, I guess one high note to end on is the quest system. The quest system, when you go to Warzone, you get a lore-related story quest where you have 2 or 3 missions that you have to do, and at the end of it, you get a payout. Usually you get some equipment, occasionally you even get a mech out of it. And I think the quest system is not something that any of us expected. And it's a really nice addition, especially since those missions do have specialized text, they have voice acting and all that stuff. So the quest system, top-notch PGI. That was a really good addition that we didn't think about. I'm happy it's there. I hope they can expand on them soon.
Yeah, it's kind of akin to the flashpoints,
Yeah.
and I think that was a great addition.
Yes.
And it's a great
Mm.
lead to take from. One thing I want to bring up just was the music. What was your guys' impression on the music, the soundscape?
80s grunge rock, pretty cool. Yeah,
Just the music, as we talked about, I think the music is
Yeah.
fine. I think what you said, that maybe at the end of the mission, like some kind of music ramping up, or before the mission, the hype music, there
Yeah.
could be some improvements, but overall, it's fine.
Yeah, same here.
Like-
I like it too.
Yeah, I've listened to the soundtrack and seen how it's implemented in game. I think it could be a lot better, but yeah, it's fine. I'm I was hoping for better.
Okay, so that was episode 109 of the First Circuit podcast, and we have our what?
Well,
That-
yeah.
that
So
was
final thoughts.
one heck of an outro. Like
Okay, I will edit that out. But go
from the
ahead.
conversation straight into the outro. Let's bring it home. Do you guys have any last words you want to add on this random rambling about Mechwarrior 5? Any final verdict? Anything you want to say?
All right, so I'll return to my sort of general point, just that yeah, the game is a very repetitive loop. Yeah, just get money, spend money, get money, spend money. Just slowly build up your stuff, and it takes quite some time to build up your lance. The biggest strengths were, as we sort of discussed before, the watered down MWO combat and co-op. I think that is still very fun and enjoyable, blasting away the enemies and whatnot. But for me, I just don't feel it's enough of a game, and in a way, I'm happy enough not to to keep waiting on this game, because for me, I don't think it's done very well story wise, lore wise, gameplay wise, decision wise. There's just not much reason for me to pick up the game, because all I'm going to do is build up my lance to be a bigger lance like everybody else had, because this game the game design is built around the exchange of C-bills, and whilst that makes sense, that obsession with money um, just meant that they never really obsessed about making the game fun. That was the big thing with Harebrained Schemes BattleTech. If you ever see them play at MechCon, they they love the visual stuff. They love putting in stuff that gives players choices. And the design in MechWarrior 5, it's the most simple chair you could make for $5. And it's like, yep, it's a stool. It gets the job done. You can sit on it. It does everything you wanted it to if you're a mech fan. But obviously, I would like some cushioning. I'd like a back to the chair. It doesn't have that. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna go next because I agree with a lot of what you just said. I think what I said earlier, I think Mechwarrior 5 it's not a bad game. It's not a great game. I was kind of tooling around with some numbers. I think I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. It's a passable game. It's a game that's fun to play, and I don't think I'm wasting time when I'm playing it right now, even with all the issues that I'm encountering. But it's not like BattleTech, where the first week, even after every single patch, for the first week or so, I'm like, I need to get home, I need to play. Whereas on Mechwarrior 5, it's been out for 2 weeks. I've been played comparably a lot less than on other games. And I'm now going to go to my Christmas day at family for 6 days nearly. And I'm not anxious about this. I'm not excited to come back and play Mechwarrior 5. I don't care that I can't play the game for a couple of days. And that's actually not something that has happened to me before. Usually when I start a new game, for those first 3 or 4 weeks, I want to play it non-stop. And every time I have to leave, even for just some hours, I'm like, I can't, I want to stay home and I want to play. Not so for Mechwarrior 5. So yeah, it's a fine game, 6 out of 10. Many things to improve.
Yeah,
if I had to give it a rating, just if we're doing that, I would give it 5.42 spare tons out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob.
Okay. I'm with all you on a lot of different points. It's a fine game in itself, but it needs a lot of work. It just seems that they missed some things. They should have play tested it with the general audience a little bit, to get some feedback of hey, this can be improved. This could be cool if you do this. This will be like this. And I give it probably about a 7.5 to 7.8, with major improvements they need to go do, because it just feels just like what Ian said. It's like BattleTech, man. I'm like, oh my God, there's a event going on, or this happened here, and I need to do this kind of thing. My pilots, I can customize my pilots. I can do this. I can do that. There's so much to that game that I literally, just like you said, not ran home, but I drove home really quickly. Avoiding stop signs and cops and everything, just to come and go play this game, go play BattleTech. They did a great job on lore. They did a great job on like little nuances that they love the game. I'm not saying PGI doesn't love the game, but I feel it's just unfinished. It's not Fallout 76 unfinished, because nothing can beat that, but it is just a little bit. It's a lot of things are unfinished in the game. And listen to the AMA, they did say a lot of things weren't done, and they should have actually spent more time on the game itself. But I mean, like I said, it's a solid 7.5, 7.8. As far as recommendations, like I talked before, to a mech fan, we're going to get it like anyways. To a BattleTech fan, we're going to get it. That's just what's going to happen. But to a general type of person that doesn't know anything about BattleTech and goes, oh, look, there's mechs and robots and guns and all that kind of stuff, I'd probably say wait for a sale. It's not a AAA title. It's not, I hate to say it's not a AA title. It's one of the things you wait for a sale for the general audience.
I'd even go slightly further and say, if you're new to the BattleTech universe and you want a good entry into the BattleTech universe, take a look at Hairbrain Scheme's BattleTech.
Yeah, they do a great job on lore and everything else. They're trying to get you immersion is what I'm going for. Immersion effect.
If you want the BattleTech, the Mechwarrior experience, because you don't really care about tactical play, Mechwarrior for Mercenaries has been distributed for free by Microsoft. It's no longer available as an official download, but you can still get the game for free, and it's legal to play it for free. So go ahead and check out Mechwarrior for Mercenaries if you really have that itch to try it out.
Yeah, okay. I might pump it up again, I guess.
But if you are either a mech person or a space accountant, Mechwarrior 5 has you covered.
Yeah.
Space accountant. Okay. So that was episode 109 of the First Circuit podcast.
Yes.
And with tonight's episode, we had Ian.
Hello and bye-bye.
And I have to say, congratulations, Ian, on doing your become one of the club now.
Hey, I'm a Twitch affiliate now.
He's now a Twitch affiliate, got 50 followers. So if you guys can, I'll leave his link down below. Give him a follow, you guys can. Support Ian in what he's doing, and go from there. So, and then also we had Biter.
Lark.
And myself, Oldbot10025. Thank you for all the support you've given us. Check out it on SoundCloud, on Podbean, if this is under an hour, probably not. But check it out on SoundCloud, and we'll see you on the battlefield.